Welcome to our deep dive, everybody. Today we're going to be focusing on, well, the future. Digital marketing trends for 2025 and beyond.
Sounds pretty far out.
It is, but we're using Deepak Bansal's recent Forbes article as our kind of crystal ball for this one.
Oh, Bansal. I've heard his stuff is really cutting edge.
Definitely. And he really gets into not just what the trends are going to be, but what they're going to mean for all of us,
Right. Because whether you're, running your own business or you're just someone who wants to understand this whole digital world we live in, this stuff matters.
Yeah, exactly. And one of the big things Bansal jumps right into is AI and machine learning. He says they're going to be way more integrated into marketing than they are even now.
Well, yeah, we are already seeing some pretty crazy AI stuff out there, right?
Totally. But he's talking about even more than that, AI that can basically read your mind, or at least analyze your preferences and stuff, and then deliver content that's personalized just for you.
Yeah, so no more just seeing a million random ads. You'd only see the stuff that you actually might be interested in.
Exactly. But is that a good thing? You know?
Right.
It sounds amazing on one hand, but it's also kind of whoa, hold on. How much do these companies know about me?
For sure, that privacy question is huge.
Right. And then Bansal gets into voice search and voice commerce, which he thinks are going to be even bigger than they already are, which is hard to imagine.
Oh, I totally agree. I feel like everyone I know has a smart speaker in their house these days.
Oh, absolutely. And people are already using their voices for everything, ordering groceries, searching for information, even controlling their lights.
It's wild. So Bansal's basically saying that's just going to get 10 times more intense.
Basically, yeah. And, he makes this really interesting point about how it's changing SEO, how marketers have to think about it.
How so?
Well, before it was all about keywords people typed, right? But now it's how do people talk when they're searching for something?
Oh, that's a great point. Instead of typing in best pizza New York City, you probably say to Alexa, hey, where's the best pizza near me?
Exactly. So marketers have to get into that mindset now, think about, the natural language people use.
And it's not just about search either, right?
Mm-hmm.
Didn't Bansal talk about voice commerce too? Actually buying stuff with your voice?
Oh yeah, he's imagine ordering a car just by talking to your smart speaker. Haha. I don't know if I'm ready for that yet.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that's a little out there, but I can definitely see it happening.
Me too. But, let's move on to something a little less voice activated. Bansal also talks a lot about augmented reality and virtual reality and how they're going to revolutionize, basically everything.
Well, that's right. He's not just talking about those silly filters on Instagram either.
Nope, he's thinking way bigger. Imagine trying on clothes virtually or even walking through a virtual store from your living room.
It's kind of like that IKEA app that lets you see how furniture would look in your house.
Exactly. But Bansal says that's just the beginning. He talks about how Sephora's already using AR for virtual makeup try-ons, and he thinks that kind of thing is going to be everywhere.
Wow, that's actually pretty cool. I could definitely see myself using something like that.
Me too. And he even talks about using VR to experience travel destinations before you even book a trip.
That is seriously mind-blowing.
Right. It's the possibilities are endless. But with all this crazy technology, it kind of makes you wonder, are there any downsides?
Yeah, for sure. What about privacy and security or accessibility? Will this stuff only be available to people who can afford the latest gadgets?
Those are really important questions. And Bansal does actually talk about that a bit. He says that, we need to be mindful of those things as these technologies get more and more sophisticated.
So it's not all sunshine and roses, huh?
Well, I think it has the potential to be amazing, but we definitely need to be aware of the potential pitfalls too,
Totally. It's with any powerful tool, it all depends on how we use it.
Exactly. And Bansal doesn't shy away from that at all, which I really respect.
Yeah, me too. It makes his predictions even more thought-provoking, I think, because he's not just blindly saying the future is awesome. He's also acknowledging the potential downsides.
Right. Okay, so we've talked about AI, voice, and AR/VR. What else is Bansal predicting for the future of digital marketing?
Well, he doesn't think video is going away anytime soon, but he says the format is definitely evolving.
Okay, so it's not enough to just make a long, boring video anymore.
Pretty much.
Okay.
He says it's all about short, snappy content now, stuff that grabs attention in a split second.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's think about TikTok and Instagram Reels. People are used to consuming content in these bite-sized chunks.
Exactly. And Bansal says that trend is only going to continue. So marketers need to be creating videos that are like entertaining, informative, but also like really easy to digest.
So short and sweet, basically.
Yeah, but there's a twist. He also talks about how video needs to be more interactive.
Oh, what does that mean? Like choose your own adventure videos or something?
Maybe. But he's talking about things like polls, quizzes, live Q&As, anything that makes the viewer feel like they're part of the experience, not just watching passively.
Okay, so it's like video is becoming more of a two-way conversation.
Exactly.
That's really interesting. But, let's move on to something a little more, maybe a little unnerving.
Oh no, what's coming up?
Bansal talks about hyper-personalization. Really personalized.
Oh yeah, he did say something about that. Like, it's going to go way beyond just seeing your name in an email.
Bro, yeah, way beyond. He's talking about, brands knowing your needs before you even do, and, showing you ads for products that solve problems you haven't even told anyone about.
Oh, that's kind of creepy.
Right.
Yeah.
On one hand, it's super convenient, but on the other hand, it's how do they know that? And how are they using that information?
Yeah, the ethics of all this data collection are a major concern.
Totally. And Bansal acknowledges that. He says it raises some serious questions about privacy and, even manipulation.
So are we just supposed to accept that this is happening? Or is there anything we can do about it?
That's a great question. And, Bansal doesn't pretend to have all the answers, but he does say that as consumers, we need to be aware of the trade-offs we're making when we share our data.
Yeah, I think awareness is key.
Ooh.
And, being careful about what we share online.
Absolutely. Okay, but before we get too deep into the ethics of data collection, let's talk about another trend Bansal highlights: social commerce.
Ah, right. That was an interesting one. He's basically saying that social media and e-commerce are going to become the same thing.
Yep. Imagine scrolling through Instagram and buying everything you see.
That's my dream. But seriously, he's saying that platforms like Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, they're all basically going to become shopping malls.
And we're already seeing that happening, right? You can buy stuff directly through Instagram now.
Right. But Bansal thinks it's going to get even more seamless. You'll see something on your favorite influencer's feed, and you can buy it right then and there without ever leaving the app.
It's definitely convenient, but I wonder if it'll make us more impulsive shoppers,
Oh, for sure. I already buy too much stuff online as it is. I can only imagine how much worse it'll get when it's that easy.
Same here. But Bansal does talk about that a bit. He says that social commerce platforms might need to put some safeguards in place to, prevent people from spending too much or buying things they'll regret later.
It's good to hear. Because I could definitely see myself getting carried away.
Me too. But, he also talks about how social commerce can be really good for small businesses and creators. It gives them a whole new way to reach customers.
Oh, that's a great point. I hadn't thought about it from that angle.
It's definitely a double-edged sword, I think. All of these trends we've been talking about, they have the potential to be really good or really bad, depending on how they're used.
Yeah, I think that's the big takeaway here. It's not like the technology itself is good or bad. It's all about how we choose to use it, both as marketers and as consumers.
Totally. And it's up to us to make sure we're using it in a way that benefits everyone,
Absolutely.
So we've covered a lot of ground already, but we've still got a lot more to discuss, including how to prepare for this crazy digital future that Bansal is predicting. But we'll save that for the next part of our deep dive.
Sounds good. I'm excited to hear what else he has to say.
Okay, so we left off talking about social commerce. Now let's get back into some of Bansal's other predictions. He really paints this picture of a completely transformed digital landscape.
Oh, totally. Everything's hyper-connected, hyper-personalized.
Yeah.
It's kind of overwhelming to think about, honestly.
I know. And one of the things that really stood out to me was this idea of hyper-personalization. He takes personalization to a whole other level.
Yeah, he does. It's he's talking about brands basically being able to read your mind and predict what you need before you even know you need it.
Exactly. And he gives these examples imagine scrolling through your social media feed and seeing an ad for, I don't know, a new pair of running shoes right when you were thinking about getting some new ones.
Or maybe you're thinking about taking a vacation and suddenly you start seeing ads for flights to Hawaii or something.
Yeah. It's wild, but also kind of creepy, isn't it?
Oh, definitely. It's how much data are these companies collecting about us and how are they using it? It's a little unsettling, to be honest.
Right. Is this level of personalization awesome or invasive?
Yeah.
Hard to say.
Yeah, Bansal brings up those ethical concerns too. Like, he talks about how this kind of hyper-personalization could be used to manipulate people, to buy things they don't need or even to influence their opinions.
He doesn't really offer any solutions, though, does he?
Not really. I mean, he stresses that we need to be aware of what's happening and to be careful about the information we share online. But it's tough because it's almost like we have to give up some of our privacy just to participate in the digital world these days.
Yeah, it feels like a catch-22 sometimes. Okay, so we've talked about AI, voice, AR, VR, social commerce, Andy, hyper-personalization. Whew, that's a lot. But Bansal doesn't stop there. He also talks about how the lines between social media and e-commerce are blurring, with social commerce becoming, well, huge GE.
Oh, yeah, he was really excited about that. Like, he basically thinks every social media platform is going to become a shopping mall.
Exactly. Like, you'll be scrolling through your feed and boom, there's a buy now button right next to that cute sweater your favorite influencer is wearing.
It's so convenient, though. Like, no more switching between apps or websites. You can just shop right there on the spot.
I know, right? It's dangerous. But, Bansal does mention the potential downsides of social commerce, too.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
Well, he talks about how it could lead to more impulse buying, like we'll be more likely to buy things we don't need just because they're right there in front of us.
Yeah, I can definitely see that happening.
Yeah.
Especially with all these influencers pushing products on us constantly.
Right. It's like FOMO meets online shopping. A recipe for disaster. Haha. But, Bansal also talks about how social commerce could be really good for small businesses and creators.
Oh, yeah, right. It gives them a whole new way to reach customers and sell their products.
Exactly. So it's kind of a mixed bag, like most of these trends.
Yeah, I'm starting to notice a theme here. Like, all these advancements have the potential to be amazing, but they also come with some risks.
It's like the digital world is this double-edged sword, It can connect us, empower us, make our lives easier, but it can also be used to manipulate us, exploit us, and invade our privacy.
It's true. It feels like we're at this really crucial point where we need to decide how we want technology to shape our lives,
Yeah, we can't just blindly accept these changes. We need to be informed, be critical, and make conscious choices about how we interact with the digital world.
Totally. But Bansal's article gives me hope because he's not just pointing out the problems, he's also offering some solutions,
Oh yeah, like what?
Well, he talks about the importance of being critical consumers of information, questioning the motives behind algorithms, and demanding transparency from the companies that collect our data.
Those are all really good points. We have more power than we think, We just need to be willing to use it.
Right. And it starts with educating ourselves about these trends and understanding how they work.
So we're not just passengers on this digital roller coaster, right? We can actually steer it in the direction we want to go.
That's what Bansal seems to be saying, yeah. And that's pretty empowering, I think.
It is. Okay, so we've talked about the potential benefits and risks of all these digital marketing trends. But, the big question is, how do we prepare ourselves for this future that Bansal is describing? Like, what skills or mindsets will be essential for success in this crazy, ever-evolving landscape?
Well, Bansal emphasizes that adaptability is going to be key. Like the ability to learn quickly, change direction when you need to, and embrace new technologies without freaking out.
Makes sense. Like the digital world is changing so fast, you got to be able to keep up.
Exactly. And he also talks about the importance of curiosity, creativity, and a willingness to experiment.
So it's not just about being tech savvy, it's about having the right attitude too, right?
Yeah, totally. And he also believes that empathy and understanding human psychology will be more important than ever for marketers.
Oh, that's interesting. Why is that?
Well, because as AI gets more sophisticated, it's going to be even more important for marketers to connect with consumers on a human level.
Yeah.
To build relationships, to understand their needs and emotions.
So it's not just about algorithms and data anymore.
Not entirely. The most successful marketers of the future will be the ones who can blend that technical expertise with genuine human connection.
That's a really good point. It's like we can't forget about the human element in all of this.
Right. At the end of the day, marketing is still about connecting with people.
Totally. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive, but, I'm curious, what was your biggest takeaway from Bansal's article? What really stuck with you?
Honestly, it was his focus on the ethical side of things. It's so easy to get caught up in all the cool new tech and kind of forget about, like, the potential downsides.
Yeah, that's true. Like, we're at this point where we really got to make some choices about, like, how much we want technology to, run our lives.
But he doesn't just, like, preach at you about it, Bansal actually gives some good advice on how to deal with all this stuff.
Oh, yeah. Like, what kind of advice?
Well, like, being really careful about the information we see online and questioning, like, why am I seeing this? Who's deciding what I see?
The algorithm, right.
Exactly. And he also says we should, like, demand more transparency from these companies that are, gathering all our data.
Yeah, I think that's super important, like knowing how our information is being used and, making sure it's not being abused.
Totally. And I think that's something we can all do,
Yeah.
Like, we're not powerless in all of this.
It's like, we got to be more informed, right? Like, educated digital citizens or something.
Exactly. I like that. Educated digital citizens.
Haha, right. But, Bansal's predictions, they are pretty mind-blowing. Like, it's exciting, but also kind of scary to think about this future he's describing.
I know what you mean. It's a lot to take in. But what I like is that he's not afraid to, point out the good and the bad. He doesn't sugarcoat anything.
Yeah, he keeps it real. And I think that's why this deep dive has been so interesting. Like, it's not just a hype fest about the future. It's like a real conversation about the possibilities and the potential problems.
Totally. And that's what makes his predictions so valuable, I think. Because he's not just telling us what he thinks will happen. He's also, like, challenging us to think about what kind of future we want to create.
Yeah, it's a call to action for sure. So to everyone listening, I hope you take Bansal's predictions as like a starting point for your own exploration of all this stuff. Like, do your own research, think critically, and figure out how you want to navigate this whole digital revolution.
Couldn't have said it better myself. The future of digital marketing and the future of, like, how we live our lives online, it's all happening right now. So let's make sure we're paying attention and making choices that, work for us.
Well said. That's a great note to end on. Thanks so much for joining us for this deep dive into the future of digital marketing. It's been a fascinating conversation.
Thanks for having me. It's always fun to chat about this stuff.
Until next time, everybody, stay curious, stay engaged, and try not to let the algorithms control your life. Haha.
Exactly.